Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. Remember to subscribe to our free podcast so you won't miss any of our inspiring content. Here is episode 146.
I think as humans, that's our job, is to learn how to listen, to learn how to be in the moment with each other, to learn how to witness each other.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Diana Zaheer. Diana says, as far back as I can recall, I think I was 4 years old. I saw energy. It didn't seem strange. In fact, it felt quite natural. Its visual presence provided comfort and companionship. It reminded me that I was not alone in my everyday conventional life, but part of a greater reality that was beneficial, unbounded, and true. I came from a family with generations of sensitive people. Two of my grandparents worked as healers. After working as a journalist for many years, she began studying energy healing techniques and spiritual traditions from around the world. She wanted to help people understand energy and healing with the same precision and measurability of journalistic science. She lived in the United States, Dubai, Nepal, Kazakhstan, and India. She comes from the birthplace of Berkeley, California. Her formal healing study began at the age of 23 when she joined Diamond Heart Training of the Ridwan School of Berkeley, California. She studied with that group for 15 years. To better understand the psychological and anatomy of the human body, she completed the California state-approved massage therapy and healing art certification from the Diamond Light School in Marin County, California. From Healing Touch International, an organization started by U.S. nurses to share techniques and understanding that energy healing work. She learned the importance of being able to clearly talk with clients about the energy field and healing process. She also lived overseas, meeting and learning from practitioners of different spiritual and healing traditions. She's a veteran homeschool mom. Although she didn't expect that that would be their path, both of her children wanted to be homeschooled for most of their educational careers. She has two sons, and their wishes and choices fit naturally with her work and the way her family functioned. She and her husband put her family first and take pleasure in witnessing, attuning to, and guiding the lives of their two boys. She's homeschooled all over the world, on the mountaintops of Nepal, the deserts of Dubai, in the primitive Kazakhstan, and in vibrant cities in India. Our homeschooling journey involves gifted learning and twice exceptional learning. Well, welcome, Diana.
Thank you so much.
You have such a wonderful life of so many things that we're going to talk about that I think our audience is going to find very inspirational. We're going to kind of do an organic thing of mixing your home life with what you've chosen as your profession. But before we start on any of that, please briefly tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today. And yes, I have had such a beautiful and blessed life. It's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun today. And we are always on an adventure, it feels, exploring new environments and encountering new people and learning new things. And my children are currently 16 years old and 11 years old. I have two boys, and they're just such lovely people. I enjoy them so much, and I have a great partner. The two of us together really want to listen and understand our children and see what they need. We take learning year to year, see what everybody wants to do. And we've been so lucky to have so much support in the places where we've lived. We've had family and friends and teachers and mentors. So it's a very exciting life that I can share with you.
Well, great. It's going to be fun to talk about. Let's talk about how you found your mission and passion in your life. You said at 4 years old, you saw the energy. I mean, how did that all work and lead to that vision?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't used to talk about that very much because it did sound rather unusual to share that with people. But I have been very fortunate to have adults in my life, my entire childhood, who were very spiritually inclined and psychologically curious. And so I think I just grew up around people who wanted to support me in being myself, and they didn't need me to be a certain way. And as a result, I remember seeing energy. It was just part of my visual awareness that I could see regular physical and conventional objects, but I could also see this deeper presence of energy that's the life force energy. And that has stayed with me my entire life. It's a great blessing. I don't ever feel alone, and I know that ultimately everything is going to be okay.
That is wonderful. And we kind of talked about before we began recording how it is a very organic, the mind, the body, and the spirit can be a very organic thing. Let's talk about a little bit about your educational journey and how that led you to discover what you love to do. We talked about you finishing your degree, but you've also got extensive travel experience.
Yes. So I didn't necessarily think I would be a healer or do healing work. And actually, I don't even really like the term healer. I feel like I'm a healing practitioner or an energy healing practitioner. But ultimately, everyone is healing themselves. We just need access to the resources that we require to remember who we really are. We don't need to add anything into ourselves. We just need to have ways of remembering. And I was a journalist for a very long time. And then it was as if life started directing me toward this path. And I began to study. I began to encounter people who had something to teach. And then everywhere we lived, I seemed to learn something about the culture or the practices. When we lived in Dubai, I remember hearing the call to prayer 5 times a day. And that was such food for my soul. I would meet people there who had special gifts. When we lived in Nepal, we lived on a mountainside. It was truly Shangri-La for me. At the bottom of the road from our home in the mountains was a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and I would sit with the monks every day at 4 o'clock for their prayers, just me and the monks. And that was phenomenal. I met one of my teachers through that monastery. So every place we've lived, I feel like my tool bag has grown that I have used for my own understanding, and then I just naturally share that with my clients.
I want to know, a lot of my audience may be more used to Western medicine. Is it possible to integrate, Western medicine with Eastern medicine? How does the body heal with using the mind and the spirit and all of those things?
Absolutely. I'm a person who wants to include as much as possible. So I love Western medicine, and I think there are ways that Western medicine brings gifts to the world that only it can bring. And the same thing of Eastern medicine or different practices. I'm very much a smorgasbord person where I would like to include as much as possible. And I think all of these modalities can help us achieve wholeness. So much of it depends on the individual and what's comfortable for them. And I think working in the healing arts is about listening deeply to the person you're sitting with and seeing what resonates with them and what are they drawn to help them heal. So a combination of approaches is ideal. And, that's not different in a way from my experience as a parent. Sitting with each of my children, being able to deeply hear them, being able to deeply witness where are they on their journey as students, as people that need to learn life lessons, as people who need to heal certain things. I think as humans, that's our job, is to learn how to listen, to learn how to be in the moment with each other, to learn how to witness each other.
Well, and I love the philosophy of integrating all modalities because I mean, we hear all the time that in order to heal the body, people who are more prone to meditation or prayer or even trying to, like you said, be more mindful, to use that mindfulness, are more likely to heal versus people who just go into the doctor and expect to get some sort of pill that's going to make it all better. Let's kind of talk about how you feel like your paradigm and your educational philosophy kind of changed over time and with experience. I mean, it sounds like you were in a very healthy household that respected, you as an individual. So maybe it hasn't changed all that much, but where you've been to where you've came from in your thought process about all of these things.
That's a nice question. I think that probably the single most thing that has happened for me in the last couple of years, and again, I'm very fortunate because I have my own teachers, just like I get to mentor people, I am mentored by others. And part of what I have been understanding in myself is the opportunity that exists in all of our relationships, in all of our interactions, large or small, what we can learn in that moment. Of course, there's learning about the other person and our relationship to them, but how each thing that triggers us is a way the universe wants us to become more whole. So I think I take myself a lot less seriously than I used to, and I don't believe my thoughts the way I used to. And I really want to understand whatever opaqueness is there for me that keeps me from feeling my own wholeness. That's a huge passion for me. And I just appreciate so much. I feel such gratitude for the journey that I've been on as an individual and as a mother and a wife and a human. I feel like we are so fortunate to be on this planet. We are so fortunate to have these moments with these people we love and to guide children and to help shape them and learn from them. It's really an amazing opportunity to be a human being.
It is. Well, and I really appreciate your sense of gratitude. I feel like many times in our, especially in the Western, life that we have, we feel so rushed and feel, if we don't get this perfect right now, all is lost and that we have failed. Do you feel like that's part of your philosophy too, that maybe when you talk about not taking yourself as seriously, that maybe you can step back and see that even places where we feel like we've messed up is ways that, the universe or our destiny is meant to go so that we're able to learn?
Yes. Oh, yes, I agree with that. I have so much compassion for all of us because at this time on the planet, we are moving very quickly. There is so much stimulation, and we're in a very device-heavy time. It's hard to function on a day-to-day level without engaging with those devices. We could go in a monastery and be separate from them, but if you want to have a home and you want to interact and pay your bills, and even homeschooling happens on the computer a lot of the time. So it is a challenge to be here now with all of the stimulation. It's not an impossibility, but it is a challenge. And I think my two best friends in my life now, in terms of my inner experience of myself, are compassion and curiosity. Compassion for whatever I'm feeling, curiosity about it, this kind of warm-hearted friendship toward whatever's happening inside me, whether I've made a mistake, whether I've forgotten something. It's okay. All of it is material to bring us back to ourselves.
Well, and that curiosity, many times we, especially as adults, try to shove down that we're just working towards the grindstone of just the everyday rat race, but we don't really have that curiosity. I think many of us have even been taught to stop questioning, stop questioning those feelings that we may have, when I feel like that would lead us to greater understanding of who we are and our mission that we're meant to move in. What would you?
Yes, it's one of the essential energies that's inside each one of us. It's part of our true nature. It's part of who we really are, is this energy of curiosity. And it's very related to joy. And so that's why we feel very uplifted when there's no judgment or no barriers against feeling our curiosity. It's very uplifting. It's very enlivening. It can feel like bubbles lifting us up. Curiosity is one of our freedoms. So when we learn how to have that as part of our daily life in ways that feel safe for us, we're taking part of our life back, and that feels wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love what you're saying there, because I think many times we feel shameful for that. It is very freeing. Let's talk a little bit about your homeschooling. I mentioned in your bio that you're a veteran homeschooler, but that wasn't necessarily the path that you felt like you were going to take. How did that change and evolve?
Yeah. Well, just the homeschooling experience has changed so much in the last 15 or 16 years. When my older son was small and that became clear we would homeschool him because he wanted that, we had very few options. I mean, there were little kits you bought with the books and your agenda, what you did every day, or you could be a more out-of-the-box parent who created what you were doing. But today, there's just an abundance of options for homeschooling families, and that makes my heart so happy that you can do online activities as groups, you can do online activities one-on-one with some professor at a university, you can do gatherings of children in different communities who are sharing teachers. I mean, it's phenomenal what's possible for homeschoolers today.
Well, and I love how you talked about you've made your homeschooling a very natural thing with your work. I feel like many of us that were brought up in a traditional system, when we decide to homeschool, all of a sudden it becomes a very rigid thing. We go from playing with our children to all of a sudden we're expecting them to sit down and, learn like we did traditionally. How have you made that more organic?
I think that's an excellent point, Rebecca. And I went through those times as well, especially in the early years with my older son, that it's such a responsibility. I mean, education is so important in every country in the world. And if that's going to come into my court, all of a sudden, it's this tremendous thing you feel responsible for. But the reality is that children are designed to learn. Even in some of the farthest back out moments I've had, there was one time, I can't remember if it was in India or Nepal, I had taken my son to the doctor, and it was this podunk little place, and we were a bunch of people crammed in a waiting room, and there may have been like 2 or 3 toys, the simplest, cheapest toys, and there were all these children there making extraordinary things with them, with their brilliancy. So children are going to learn. They are wired to learn. They love to learn. And that's great news for us as homeschooling parents, because then we think, okay, I really can't mess this up. They want to learn. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to find the right materials for them. So I feel like being a homeschooling parent, they're getting used to it, but we're getting used to it and we're relaxing. We're trusting that I know my child. I can observe my child, I can witness my child, and I can experiment. Experimentation is such a big part of it. Does this feel like the right match? Does this feel like the right match? If so, that's where we go. And that has served us so well. I mean, my children have flourished, and they've attended regular school, they've done online school. We're doing a new experiment now. I mean, it just keeps changing and growing, but they feel empowered. They know we are their champions. We're not perfect, and that's just fine. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's a good enough parent, and there's no such thing as a perfect homeschooling parent. There's a good enough homeschooling parent, and that's what children need and appreciate and flourish with.
Well, and maybe you're traveling too, you're able to see parents who want what's best for their kids. I think sometimes, especially in our public policy, we want to pit all parents as these, they don't know what they're doing, type of thing. But have you seen that in your travels all over the world, that really we all want, the same thing, and that is to see our children thrive and be happy?
Absolutely. I think the generations before us wanted the same thing, but they may have had even more beliefs or barriers to expressing that. All people want what's best for their families, and they may have many obstacles to achieving that. But especially now, as homeschooling parents, we can have a team with us. It's not me alone with my child. I can have so many mentors. I can have so many resources. And I'm maybe the facilitator, or I'm the cruise director or the organizer, because I care about this child and I want to make sure they have all the ingredients. But I'm never really alone here. I have so many people who can help me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your homeschooling all over the world. We've discussed world schooling a lot on this program, but how do you feel like that has been a help, or maybe some challenges that you've had by schooling all over the world?
Sure. Well, when you travel, you're always learning. You're learning about different cultures. You're learning how people live differently and eat different foods and listen to different music and have different language and value family this way or value family that way. So I feel like it's expanded my children's understanding so much. They're truly citizens of the world, and that's a gift I'm so glad they've received. Right now, we're going to start a chunk of learning in America, and they're really wanting some USA time. So that's wonderful, too. Probably some specific examples. When my older son was, I believe, 6 years old, we adopted my younger son from Kazakhstan and my older son's biological child. And we were homeschooling then, so he homeschooled in Kazakhstan. And we were in a very simple village situation in the south of Kazakhstan in a little town called Kizilorda. It was just above Uzbekistan. And the streets were unpaved. They would water the roads down every day. There were open fire pits. There were open sewers. It was really, really primitive. And yet he was learning so much. We did some academic work because academic is an important part of being a homeschooler, but it's not the only thing. You're learning about yourself. You're learning life skills. You're learning about how you process reality. You're learning about how people relate to each other. And one of the things he learned, which we didn't really expect, was every day we would go to this orphanage. We had to visit twice a day for many, many weeks as part of the process for adopting our son. And he would watch the life of these children in an orphanage. They didn't have baths. They would stand in lines and the helpers would pour water over them. And I remember him being so shocked, like, Mama, that's their bath. And the gratitude that arose in him, the appreciation for his life, the understanding, so many things just connected in his thinking process because it was in the world and it was alive and it was something to interact with.
I think what I'm getting from your message, and maybe you can clarify from it, is that we don't appreciate how special it is to really have children understand who they are. Many times we're more anxious to make sure they know their nouns or pronouns or their addition or subtraction, but really having an understanding of who you are and being guided by kind of your inner voice, that gratitude of, things to be thankful for.
Yes, I think you really phrased that well. And my personal feeling is both are important because we live in a physical world and there are certain expectations about education and you need to be able to interact with other humans and get a job and get your driving license and all these things that we need to do. Our kids need to understand how to do that so they feel like they belong to the world. But there's this whole other area that's not being taught in school. We're not learning how to recognize when we're giving ourselves a hard time. We're not learning when our critical voice is talking to us. We're not noticing what it means to have a reaction inside ourselves when somebody's pushed our button. Maybe it's easiest for us to make friends and be in a group, or maybe it's easiest for us to be alone. All these ways of understanding who we are, the more our children have these life skills or these inner work skills, the happier they're going to be on the planet because they're going to understand how to do the job of the inner human. And that's one of the gifts I feel like my children have had from being a part of our family, because that's part of what my husband and I value, is that they get the chance to know who they are. It's not like we sit around processing everything all the time, but that's part of what our family is. It's part of how we live. When my older son was young, he resonated with certain teachings about spirituality and what it means to be a human. And there were just no limitations. It's like you are drawn to what you're drawn to, and we want you to have morals and integrity, but we don't need to form you into something you don't feel like you are.
Oh, well, I think that is missing in our society anymore. I think we have an expectation of what we want for our children, but we don't let them decide the expectation. So, and you have talked about how you've homeschooled kind of a gifted children. What were some challenges with that? I mean, we talked about this also before we started recording, that gifted and exceptionalism can come in a lot of different forms, but it is a challenging situation.
Right.
What were some of those challenges?
Yeah.
What did you learn from that too?
So much. I've learned so much. Yeah. And as I said earlier as well, before we began, I don't like the word gifted. It's a word that's used in the educational world, so it's a word that I use. But I think we all have gifts. I think we come to the planet and each one of us has abundant gifts to share as part of our being here. But in terms of giftedness and learning, what that means to me is the person has a big appetite for learning, or a deep appetite for learning, or an unusual interest in learning that makes it hard to learn in a standard environment. Whether it's at one continuum or another of the classroom, a teacher can't really track you or feed you in the way you need to be fed as an unusual kind of learner. And so I've had those kinds of learners, and a lot of my clients are those kinds of learners as children or adults or teenagers. There are people who just want to go fast and deep, and they focus in. And so to have a learner like that, you shift your expectations, you shift your measurements, I think, and you trust that person more. You trust that if they get what they need, they're going to have this inner confidence. They're going to have an inner ability, and so you're learning to give them skills, but also wings. My older son is doing some college work now in high school. I didn't need him to do that. I don't have a need for him to meet certain markers at this time, but he wants it. He feels it. He needs it. It's how he's going to munch enough information to feel happy as a learner. So that's fantastic. And I trust people will let us know what they need if we're listening. And then again, as you said, sometimes as parents, we have these ideas about what's right. And then these children come along and they expand us and they help us grow. And they shift our belief system or our paradigms about what does it mean to have a fifth grade learner? Well, maybe they're doing eighth grade, or maybe they're doing art, or whatever it is that that child feels really alive from doing. I trust that now.
Before we go on, let's listen to this message.
Recently, the Luminous Mind became an affiliate for Edgessense, which offers tremendous discounts on educational supplies. I personally use Edgessense to purchase our family supplies because of their great prices, responsive shipping times, and best of all, the chance to earn EduBucks, which I use towards future purchases. Who doesn't love a great deal within a deal? To get a 90% savings on your Edgessense materials, go to theluminousmind.net and click on the sponsor page to find the affiliate link. Start using Edgessense to illuminate your educational experience.
From this infinite fountain, like the star whose golden cups paint the universe, like the star, her creation absolves time, like the star whose golden cups paint the universe, like the star. Now, emerging in conscious undercurrent, is born.
Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Diana Zaheer as we discuss helping others heal and discover themselves.
Well, and don't you feel like it's a challenge as a parent with a gifted learner to see their genius? Sometimes, when you were 4 years old, for example, you saw that energy work, but maybe to the common eye, that would seem like she's a little crazy, or
absolutely.
See, Albert Einstein, wasn't he one of those that the teachers thought was just a little bit crazy because they couldn't recognize his genius? How have you as a parent been able to recognize that?
Well, I have always been a really unconventional person, and I think that's why living overseas and having all these adventures has appealed to me as a person. I have a phenomenal family in America. I love, love, love my family. But there have been times I felt like the one who didn't belong because they all seem to really get in the flow here, and I always felt a little bit on the outside for a long time.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. But I think I always had eyes that could see things that maybe other people didn't notice. So as a mom with unusual learners, that came in handy because I could see things about them that other people couldn't see. I could intuitively feel what they needed. And perhaps that was uncomfortable for people, but that's okay. I don't want to cause anybody any harm, but I knew what my kids needed to fly. And I had a great husband who said, let's do this.
What I'm getting from your advice of maybe what you'd give to another mother is to just trust their instincts. They were given that child for a reason, and that they need to trust the instincts more than the outside voices.
Absolutely. I really do feel we are given the children we're exactly supposed to have, whether they come through our bodies or from another country, however they end up in our lives and we fall in love with them. And I think the other thing to remember is people are trying to help us. It's from a good intention. Everything has love in it, but it may not feel exactly in sync with what your gut is telling you. So trust your gut and find resources, find communities that resonate with you, because that will help your inner voice get stronger.
Well, and if we express that appreciation to others, that, maybe our communications with our family and those other people will be better, and they'll understand our direction a little bit more.
They will.
Instead of feeling like everyone's against you, or,
And, sometimes we may feel that, and then we just need to take care of ourselves in that moment, because that means we've hit a raw place in ourselves. But the more comfortable I become with who I am and the choices I've made for myself and my children, people feel my comfort and they feel comfortable with it. And then they end up coming to me for support, the irony of all of it, right?
Yes.
But it's all learning. And when we land in the inner ground of who we are, things just get a lot brighter for everybody.
That's great. Well, let's move into how you do help to serve other people. And let's learn more about what your life's work and your mission is about.
I'm just the luckiest person. I spend time with the most phenomenal, brilliant, courageous people who want to heal parts of themselves or know themselves better, or kids I get to work with, or teenagers or couples. It's just an absolutely fantastic way to spend time.
Well, and how do you do the teaching? Tell us about your services. Do you do one-on-one mentoring or coaching, or give us the insights?
Sure. Well, it's a longish thing to explain, so that's why I made a website. Here's my website pitch, which is dianazaheer.com. And on that website, I discuss what I do and how I do it, because it does cover a lot of territory. And it's technically energy work, but I am basically sitting with a person and hearing what's going on for them. And I'm able to help that person reconnect with themselves in our time together. And then I'm big on tools. So I give people tools to practice in the week. So it's not just that we feel good when we're together, but you have ways you can kind of keep the thread going. For example, if somebody's working on the quality of love, maybe they feel disconnected from love in the relationship with themselves or with people in their life. So we work on that together in the session, and then they have tools to take with them that week, where when they practice that, they feel reconnected to love. I also have created some healing rooms on my website. So the person can go into the healing room, and in that room are specific resources that transmit the energy of love. So they can go in there independently and continue this kind of safe space to work on this particular material. And, you know, I think there are so many fantastic people on the planet right now that are offering support and encouragement and ways to reconnect to your ground again. I'm doing what is happening through me as whatever this is. It's a phenomenal experience to know how to help people. And I feel like that goes back into what we were talking about before, that I had these elders and these adults in my life who laid this foundation for me so I could stay with who I really was. So when I'm working with someone, and most of my clients are virtual now, I have kind of a digital nomad life, I can feel what's happening in the other person over the waves, the internet waves. I can feel what's happening in their body. I can sense their emotions, and I can sense what's needed for them in that moment to reconnect. And that's fantastic. I feel very guided. I have a process that I usually take people through, helping them to become better friends with themselves. And a lot of my clients are healing from deep trauma work, deep trauma experiences in their early lives. So there's a process that we go through, and also it's organic for each person. But I think the gift we offer each other in all of our relationships, whether it's a relationship like this, where you have a teacher or a mentor or some kind of healing practitioner, is that we're showing up and being present together. And we're seeing what's coming from our presence.
What successes have you seen? Has it been healing mental anguish, or, is it mostly mental anguish that you heal? Do you do, any physical ailments at all?
Right.
Anyway,
so I work a lot with people who have mental and emotional and maybe spiritual disconnection from themselves, and then they start feeling more wholeness that way. So their inner relationship with themselves starts to become a loving, friendly place that has more capacity. So then they can be in relationship easier, or they can have a bigger professional life, or whatever it is, that part of their world expands. To a lesser degree, I have beautiful experiences accompanying people who are healing from physical conditions. I've worked with several cancer patients, and these are people who are doing medical processes. And in many cases, I know there are a lot of publishing examples of this in the world, where a person who is wanting to understand themselves and become warmer towards themselves, who's doing chemo or who's doing radiation, is going to benefit a lot more from those medical practices because they're more there with themselves. Be a great companion to a medical process.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you're going through something like that, there has to be a lot of mental anguish. And if you can't kind of get through those mental blocks, then maybe you can't focus on your own healing.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think on a tissue level and on a cellular level, we're receiving all the time, right? We're receiving love, or receiving support, even receiving chemo or receiving radiation, to allow the body to do what it needs to do with medicine or with these interventions. If we have created some new pathways in ourselves that are more open and more conscious, that I want to receive this, healing goes quicker. Healing has more of a possibility. And so I do have clients who have felt that my being a part of their team in healing their cancer has really made a difference. And that feels fantastic to be somebody who's contributed to that.
Yeah. Well, and to have that positive interactions, if we talk about water crystals and how they're formed through positive words and positive reinforcements versus the negativity, when our body's made up of so much water or whatever, you would think that there's some sort of connection. So
absolutely.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, tell me about, what do you feel like are some personal habits that you have that have helped add to your success?
That's a good question, too. I love to do practices throughout my day. And I feel like my life is a combination of functioning and doing the things I need to do for my daily life and my family and all of, administrative work for my healing practice. And then these practices are as important and they're interwoven into my day. And I think I learned this from one of my teachers a few years ago when I first started working with her. She said, well, my schedule for my daily life is I meditate in the morning, I meditate in the afternoon, I meditate in the evening, and I go to the gym. And then everything else gets plugged in around that. And I thought, wow, what planet do you live on? Because I don't think anybody's going to be able to do that. But she's very successful. She's an author. She's a public figure. She's a speaker. And that really started changing what I realized about what do I want to do with this day. So I have absorbed that from her, that my day has practices that are just as important as doing dishes and cooking and shopping and reading bedtime stories and helping with homework, that they're on an equal par.
And maybe if you get those practices in to help your mental, emotional, spiritual side of your life in those physical things that you have to do seem easier. Is that?
It's directly in relationship. Yeah. That's right. So I've been moving. We've had a lot of physical moving in our life the last few weeks. And it was easy to kind of let my practices slide a little bit because we were moving from country to country and there's this and there's that. And my teacher was saying, don't let your practices slide because you need them now. You need that energy, that awakeness, that alertness that comes from your practices right now.
Yeah.
So
especially when you're in a stressful situation like that, right?
But that's the first thing to go, right? We think, oh, I've just got to take care of this task. It's like, well, try it out. See, I am a human science experimenter, right? It's like, if you do the practice and then you wash the dishes, see what that feels like. Or if you just wash the dishes without the practice, see what that feels like. It's not that somebody said you should do it and then you do it. You trust your own experience. You trust how it feels in your body. Wow, if I went and did a breathing time for 10 minutes, or if I listened to this podcast I like, or if I sit and read this book that touches me, or if I take a walk, or if I do this meditation, what's it like for me to do the dishes after that? And my experience is that doing the dishes after that, it's like it's bliss. And part of what we have to get used to, I think, is being so happy. If we have all these practices, right, that make us feel so good, we're changing what daily life is.
I really love that thought. It sounds like you do a lot of self-evaluation, And is that what you feel like maybe the most important habit would be, is that you do evaluate what you're thinking or feeling at that moment?
I would say it's evaluation in a way, but it's also like a friendship. I do a lot of self-friendship where I'm just checking in and I'm seeing what's it like to be me right now. How am I doing? What do I need? What's the sensation inside? What's the feeling inside? Is there energy that's going fast or slow or light or heavy or warm or cold? I try to take it into the moment, into my body, and see where I am. And for each of us, sometimes what we'll discover, it's very personal. Maybe we feel like a person who is feeling big or happy or small and having a hard time. And then we can respond to that. Or maybe when we go inside, it feels impersonal. We feel like a vastness. We feel very undefined. We feel very expanded. And so we never really know what we're going to find until we go in. So I think the habit that we can begin to form out of fun and playfulness, not out of, I have to do this or it's good for me, but we just learn to enjoy, like, what happens when I open that doorway? What is it like in there? And the more well-being I have in me, that's what gets spread out to all the people around me.
Oh, I love that. Goes back to how we need to teach our children that and what our conversation was about earlier.
Yes.
So tell us, I did skip a lot of the mentors that you mentioned in your bio, which will be on our show notes page, but tell us about your mentors that you had along the way that made a significant difference in your success.
I have had so many teachers. I feel like that's one of my biggest blessings for my whole life, is to have all of these people that I could absorb. I really do feel like I've absorbed them. When I was going to massage school, my teacher was so brilliant, Vajra Matuso, who has a wonderful school in Marin County. She had a certain way that her hands worked on bodies. And there was a period of time where I would look at my hands. I thought, I have Vajra's hands. I have absorbed her hands. So I think that's what can happen for us with teachers, is we begin to absorb them. We absorb their mannerisms, their understandings, their words. And so when I was 23, I started studying in the Diamond Heart School in Berkeley, California. And the founder of that, his name is Hamid Ali. He writes under a name called A.H. Almas. And he's just one of the most special human beings on the planet. He's not a guru kind of person. He is a traveler into what it means to be a true human being. And he gives his guideposts for those who find it useful. And he absolutely revolutionized my world, changed me so completely, just in terms of giving me understanding of parts of myself I didn't have language for, and I was able to discover. And Vajra Matuso for the Diamond Light School of Massage and Healing in Marin County, phenomenal human being, psychotherapist, Sufi teacher. She's a whirling dervish. She teaches body work, just complete, fantastic woman. Overseas, I have met so many great teachers. My current teachers right now are my Tibetan medicine teacher. His name is Dr. Namgyal Phunrab, and he comes from a long line of Tibetan doctors. His grandfather was a Tibetan doctor to the Dalai Lama in Tibet, and he was in prison for 20 years, and he brought my teacher over the mountains from Tibet to India when my teacher was 7 years old. Just tremendous stories. He is incredibly gifted, and we have the most fun together. We collaborate now on clients, and I feel like we giggle from our toes when we're together. It's just so much fun. And yet he carries all this mastery and wisdom, and I've learned so much about being warm-hearted from him, being a true human being. And my current teacher, who is a U.S. teacher, she's from the Christian tradition. Her name is Esther Nicholson, and she's just a champion for being who you are and having faith in reality and what's true, and knowing that there is one power and one presence in every single moment, right here, right now, even if we've forgotten it. She is an addictions teacher. She has wonderful 12-step books that accompany and kind of add more to Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step process. So I feel like I have all these vantage points from so many cultures and a huge big bag of tools because of all these great teachers.
Yeah, the diversity sounds amazing. Well, and do you feel like how you found a good mentor in your life is that they do fill your soul from the tips of your toes to, I think sometimes we're looking for mentors, but when we really find that person, is that what we feel?
Yes, and my Tibetan teacher calls it a happiness moment. When you find the person who is the right person for you to spend time with so you can learn more about yourself, you'll feel it in your body. Yeah. You'll feel it as a happiness, or you'll feel it as a knowing. You will be informed. There will be a resonance. And I trust that.
Maybe like a full body burning type, have you ever had that experience?
Yes, yeah. I had that with Esther. It was more because she's a force. She's just a force for good and strength, like a warrior woman. And I thought, there she is. Got to work with her. I didn't know if that would be possible. I watched a video of her speaking at Agape International. I love the Agape Church in Los Angeles. They have beautiful live streaming. It's just Michael Bernard Beckwith is one of the great gifts to this planet. And he had featured her on one of his Sunday programs. And I watched her and I said, she's got it going on. I know I need to work with her. She understands something. She's embodying something I need to complete myself. And I sent her an email, not even knowing who she was, and she wrote me back. So you don't know in any moment, whether it's in your job as a homeschooling parent or as a human being trying to understand yourself, you just have to step out there and see if the universe meets you, if there's flow.
That is so inspiring. Thank you. So what do you feel like your long-term vision is going to be in the future? You know, how are you going to serve others? And then how will that shape your legacy? What does that look like?
Well, I love the word legacy because my life is so focused on that right now. I really want to leave forms of what I know for people to enjoy and learn from if that's what they want to do. And my healing rooms on my website are a big part of that. It's a huge project that I'm going to expand. So people who want to learn about themselves can go onto my website, click that healing rooms link, and just access so much understanding. I have some books that I'm toying with. My husband and I are likely to do some couples work and trainings. All kinds of lovely things are popping up. But it's really now for me about sharing. I want to share what I know. I want to share resources with people. There is so much available on this planet right now for people who are looking. And I just want to help people connect the dots.
Well, and you talked about on your website, you also have how to learn organically with your family, different homeschooling resources that you have. Do you want to go into a little bit of that and what that?
Absolutely. I have on my website right now in the healing rooms a section called giftedness. And this is very helpful for families who feel like their child learns differently or they haven't totally figured out how to support their child in the learning process. I encourage those people to go to the giftedness room in the healing rooms section because it is full of videos and information and talks by masters in this area. And I've put them all together in one place for you to help you get support of understanding. And there are so many resources of people you could reach out to. I will also have a section for homeschooling and a section for twice exceptional learners when one part of the mind goes really fast and the other part needs extra support. So this is a passion for me. There are wonderful groups of families in the U.S. who support each other. They have annual retreats. They have opportunities to network. I'd love to help those people find each other.
Well, and I think that is one way I want to echo what you're saying, I guess, is that there are so many resources that we don't need to think within that conventional box anymore. That if we feel like we don't fit there or we feel confusion or frustration about our learning or our children's learning, that there are resources available that we're here to help each other, correct?
Well, abundant resources. And Rebecca, I want to thank you for what you're doing because you're really providing so many links to so many people and becoming a central place that people can go. It's very lucky for your listeners to have this. But I would say to people, of course, there are going to be feelings and doubts and reactions about having an unusual learner. But honestly, this is a gift. Yeah. This is a gift for your family, and it is actually a gift for the world. Yeah. Because the world needs these people. It is going to help us.
Well, and you were saying before we recorded, too, that you feel like that some of these gifted and exceptional learners are coming to our earth more abundantly than they were in the past. And so,
well, this was Anna Marie Roper, who she's no longer on the planet, but anything people can learn about her will just benefit them exponentially. She was one of the most helpful people in my life as a parent. She talked about how this was the time when my older son was meeting her, so about 15 years ago. She said that there are larger numbers of these children coming to the planet to help the planet. And so as parents, we're blessed to have them here. It's good they're here.
Yeah.
They're shaping us, they're growing us, and they're going to see things about what the planet needs and what each of us need to become who we really are.
Well, and your positive expression of that, I think many times we want to label it with some sort of medication or some sort of, but really it does come from a place of positivity that those children have something wonderful and great to contribute to our world. So before we say goodbye, do you feel like there's any final parting words of advice for our listeners? And then please reiterate your contact information of how we can get in touch with you.
Sure. Trust yourself. Love your family, love your life. Take a moment and just stop and slow down. Feel inside yourself. Look at the trees, smell the flowers. I mean, this gift of life is so incredibly precious. And have fun, enjoy it. Just enjoy your life. I think that everyone is trying their best. Even these situations where we're told we need to medicate our kids, it's okay. People are saying that, but we don't have to agree with it. And slowly and eventually, it's going to shift. People are more and more going to access their deeper nature. It just takes some time.
Yeah, it does. Definitely. And your contact information?
So my website is dianazaheer.com, DIANA. Z like zebra, AHEER.com. And I look forward to connecting with any of your listeners that I can help.
Well, and I'm really hoping they will access your healing rooms. I do feel like we are in an age when we do need to have some healing going on in our spirit and our soul. So thank you so much, Diana, for coming on our program today and helping to light our minds on fire. You've been such a calming, soothing figure for me this day, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rebecca. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Diana Zaheer, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list and get our new monthly newsletter. Then check out our services tab to see how we can continue to assist you, our fire starters. Also, to help us continue production of inspiring content, go to the sponsor tab at theluminousmind.net for more information on sponsorship and affiliate programs. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, and now Instagram. Get our free audio content by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. To help us grow, consider these easy ways. Tell your friends about us, leave us a review, share our content, tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.